This chapter put an exclamation point on what is, at least at this point so far, my favorite arc in this grand adventure that is One Piece.
One Piece chapter 299, Fantasia.
What? That's like a Disney movie or a stripper's name.
Well, hello, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the awesome and the inspiring and the otherworldly tale of One Piece. Our last chapter, of course, saw us in a nutshell with ultimately Luffy going right through Enel to get to the bell, to ring the bell, and the bell finally being rung after 400 years. It was great. It symbolized a lot of different things for a lot of different people, and really I think it was done very, very well. The anticipation, the build-up was just, oh my God, it was nerve-wracking, you know. And you got to imagine from my standpoint too. You know, people that were reading this when it initially came out, you had to wait the next week, you had to wait the next week. Me, I don't have to wait the next week. All that information is right there. But I have so many other things going on, not just with the channel, but with work and daily life and family and kids and everything else, that I can't just sit down and read and record 10 or 15 chapters. A lot of times I try to plan it out. I try to do a few at a time, but many times I end off on a point where I'm just like, oh God, I just want to read the next one, but I just simply do not have the time. So I need like about 30 hours in the day as opposed to 24. So this chapter ultimately, and it was just kind of in a nutshell, it really is about just showing everybody from, you know, from Mont Blanc Cricket down there and the Monkey Men, you know, Masira and Shoujou, you know, them obviously seeing or hearing the bell being rung, and the people of Skypiea, and I mean everybody from the Shandians to the, you know, just to the everyone that's still, you know, sitting in the White Sea that was in ships trying to escape, the Skypieans. And really it was a neat way, I think, to kind of finish everything off. It looks like ultimately when Luffy went through Enel and into the bell, it looks like he actually shattered the golden ball off of his hands. He dislodged the bell from where it was perched up there and it was falling down. And ultimately it looks like in Enel's ship, everybody kind of sees the Maxim going down into the clouds and presumes he's going down with his ship. And he looks like he was just knocked out, just laid out. And this was a neat arc for me because of the fact that there wasn't this ultimate climactic battle that he fought 2 or 3 or 4 times and ultimately just waylaid and destroyed him. And in Alabasta, you know, taking out Croc really symbolized a number of different things. In Skypiea, for me, Enel is so overpowered to begin with that I mean, I obviously haven't read ahead, but I don't know if he's done for, if he's just going to get up and just be like, you know, the hell with you guys and leave, if he's going to attack him again. I'm assuming that was it. But the focus was the bell, and Enel just happened to get in the way, you know. Now, he did fight Enel earlier, but it wasn't even so much to fight Enel. It was because Nami obviously was on board and he was going to rescue her. So in my mind, it wasn't so much about ever defeating Enel. It was just kind of like, hey, you got in my way, because I obviously was looking for this golden bell. And ultimately, I think that the real story here, the real tale is dreams and adventure, you know. There's 2 modes of people that I see, primary modes that people fall into as they get older, right? And you're either a person who remains to be kind of a dreamer, that person that's a go-getter, that person who goes and pushes the forefront of whatever it is, whatever field you want to get into or whatever you want to do. You're the person who does shit that people say you can't do it, just to prove them wrong and just to go and push the boundaries, you know? And then there's people who grow up and they realize because their parents tell them and their grandparents tell them that you go to college, you get a decent job. Maybe you don't really like it that much, but you work, you put in your time, you come home, you spend time with your family, you got a little money here, maybe eventually you save up for a retirement or a nice little vacation home or whatever. But ultimately, you kind of forget about some of the big dreams that you had when you were younger. And you go and you root yourself in, well, you know, this is what I have to do to survive. But when you think about it, humans are the only species on this planet that pay to be on the planet. And you think real hard on that one. We're the only species on this planet that pays to be on this planet, to live on this planet. And we do it through, you know, a lot of people just work and work and work, and then eventually, if they're lucky, once they're older and not in good enough shape and health to do many of the things that they would have liked to when they were younger, to fulfill some of the dreams they had, Then they go, and if they're lucky, they have some money for retirement. And then they're bored because all they did their whole life was work, you know? So regardless of which category you fall into, that's just my take on things. And really for a number of years, I was kind of rooted in the latter of the two that I explained, you know, that, well, I've just got to work and I got to do better and I got to do better for my kids and for my family and for my wife. But ultimately, I was very unhappy. And the one thing that I can be truly thankful for about starting this journey with One Piece and starting really this YouTube channel and just being able to connect with others is that I've found that, you know, I'm a person that loves to communicate with others. I like to have interaction with others. I like to be able to talk about things that interest me. And whether that turns into something down the road, doing radio broadcasting or doing something with voiceover work, things that would be dreams of mine, that still remains to be seen. But in a lot of ways, I am kind of letting go now to the point where I'm not so worried and rooted in that 9 to 5, that put in your hours, build up your pension, build up your this, build up your that. I'm really more trying to enjoy the moments that I have. You know, I have 3 children, and they're growing up faster than I could possibly imagine. But I'm trying to take the time now to slow down and catch some of those moments before they're gone, before they're all grown up and before I'm, you know, older and retired and, you know what I mean, or whatever winds up, you know, being in front of me. So I know that I'm getting off topic on this one, but really this chapter for me, it symbolized a lot of things. And the main thing is that you can be a dreamer, and that if nobody ever disproves something completely, and even though there's no evidence proving it completely, that means that it may exist. And if you have a big dream to go after it, by all means, go after it, you know? So that's really what it meant for me, was to chase your dreams, to follow your dreams, to push and push and push, because that is ultimately what Luffy did. You know, and even his own crewmates at many different times were like, whoa, we better bug out. We better get out of here. This is getting too heavy. And Luffy, though, with that singular purpose and focus, you know, he wanted to go on this grand adventure and chase these dreams. And I thought it was very fitting, too, at the end to see, you know, to see Mont Blanc Cricket, and he was actually crying and everything else, because now, not only does he realize that El Dorado exists, but he realizes that his ancestor wasn't this fraud and this fake, this phony. You know, that his family name, although shamed for all these years, it was shamed because the person went and stood up for what was right and the truth and the belief that he had in that truth and how important it was. So for those things, it really symbolized a lot for me. We also went and saw that that those giant sea creatures or whatever that we saw the shadows of about 100 chapters ago was actually just a projection of the Shandians. I'm assuming that's what it looks like or whatever, because then we go and we see up in the clouds, we see Luffy as he's kind of falling down, you know, from going through a Nell and shattering the bell and everything. So, or not shattering the bell, shattering the ball in his hand and dislodging the bell. So ultimately, that's kind of what I got from this chapter. I thought that it was a great wrap up to really a great arc, and in this arc too, I know many people were very divided about it, and I myself at times found myself getting so emotionally wrapped up in it that I never disliked the arc, but there were some times that I felt so strongly about something, even 8 or 9 or 10 chapters ago when I got a bunch of dislikes because of what I had said about the Shandians and their beliefs and everything. I don't mean what I said about, I'm not going to back off on what I said about the ignorance and everything like that and the stupidity of the lack of communication. That is all true. But I got so tied up and so emotional in that and so invested in the story, this fictional story, feeling that it was so real to me, that I went and I demonized and I negatively affected and shit on other people's beliefs and morals and values. And that's not what I ever do to anybody, you know? So whether it, you know, and again, I'm not asking for anybody's forgiveness. I'm not backing off on anything that I say. I'm not apologizing for anything I say. I'm just saying that I got so emotionally invested and tied in that I let that get the best of me. And when I was recording that review, I was so upset about that lack of communication that I just wanted to demonize somebody and just punish somebody with my words, you know? And it wasn't right. But certainly the one thing that we can realize and all learn from is our mistakes. So, you know, at the end of the day, do I wish I handled it a little bit differently? Sure. But also, one thing you're going to find about here on this channel is that you're going to get my raw emotion, okay? Because I read it and then I record it. I don't take time to break it down and digest it. I don't look on message boards. I don't check the wiki. I don't see what other people were saying about that chapter. I give you what my thoughts and impressions are from my heart. And sometimes you're going to like that. Sometimes you're not. Sometimes you're going to agree with me 100%. Sometimes you're going to be like, dude, you're a dick. I don't agree with you at all. And I want that to happen because I want you to be able to think on your own. So all in all, the chapter was great. It wraps up very nicely, and to me just kind of puts a great exclamation point on what was a fantastic, fabulous arc, and really anybody who did glance or glaze over this one, the casual fans, the casual observer, you've really missed out. You really have, and I certainly hope that that some of those people will eventually find their way to my channel and some of my reviews, and even if they only watch a few of them from what they think are the high points, I feel that this is the best arc that I've been privileged to go through and review and read and whatnot so far. So my chapter question for you is ultimately, what are your thoughts on, you know what, as a matter of fact, no, ultimately, what are you? Are you the dreamer, or are you somebody who's rooted in reality? And doing what you have to do. And I don't mean to put it like that because I don't want it to be divisive and have people bashing each other. But ultimately, I just kind of want to get a feeling for where people stand on this, because there's no wrong answer. There really isn't in this one. But I would like to know what your thoughts are. Are you somebody who's a dreamer, or are you kind of like hey, I put my dreams aside, do my 9 to 5, just protect my own, watch my own, maybe have a little bit at the end, left over at the month to do a little, have a little fun. Or are you somebody who's like, you know what? I'd rather be poor and happy and chase my dreams and fail at them, because you're not a failure if you actually try, than actually going and kind of just giving in and just going and doing the safe bet. You know what I mean? Are you the person who's the gambler, or are you the safe bet? So leave your answer in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you should think that I deserve it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We will look forward to catching you in the next one, which is big chapter 300. Do a couple O's there. I guess we'll do 3 and then, whatever. Anyway, you get the idea. We'll talk to you next time. We'll catch you in the next one, Nation.
Remember to check out my second channel and follow me on Twitter and Facebook as well.